One, two, three, and we are rolling. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Tim Blast, and I am a music composer for films, TV, video games, trailers, and other media. And I've been asked a few times now to make a quick overlook of my hybrid orchestral template in Cubase. So this is what I'm gonna do in this video. It should be pretty quick, but if it gets long, I will leave little timecode snippets, so you can skip ahead. All right, so let's jump right into it. All right, so here we go. What we have here is Cubase 10 Pro. And this is my go-to DAW, and I've tried Logic, Pro Tools, and Ableton, and then Cubase usually just handles it much better than the rest of the DAWs. So this is my hybrid orchestral template that I use to compose music for trailers, film scores, TV scores, and stuff like that, for larger scale projects where I need to have lots and lots and lots of instruments going at the same time, and I can just pull off from different libraries and just use it all at the same time. All right, so before I start babbling about and going in detail of what I have here, let me play you a quick track right here. This is the trailer music track called World We Made from my upcoming album called Trailer Blast Volume 2. Should be coming up sometime next month. So let's see, let's choose only the tracks that I have here. All right, so let me turn off the microphone real quick. All right, so here we go. Let's take a quick listen of it. Okay, so as you could hear, it's sort of like that. It has that hybrid orchestral feel to it. All right, let's stop this real quick. All right, so let me go a little more in detail. So basically how I work and how I compose music is I usually start with strings and general melody and like piano, and I just build like the most exciting part of the track first, and then I try to kind of build to it, you know? So that's kind of like the workflow that works the most for me for the trailer music especially. And because, you know, that's how you get the best gain control and the best build up, since you already know how your most, you know, that exciting part is gonna sound like. You can kind of build up to it. All right, so how it works here is I have a 2-computer setup. So let's see, which way do I put? Okay, so I'm gonna put some stats on the screen right now. So this is my this is my main computer stats with only the DAW and nothing else. Well, I have all the VST plugins and stuff like this on this computer. And these are my stats for the slave computer that I use to do this screen capture and kind of like just use it for everything else, just internet browsing and stuff like that. So the slave computer is basically my computer for everyday life, and plus it holds the Vienna Ensemble Pro server. And I believe I have about 256 gigabytes of RAM on this, and my Vienna Ensemble Pro server takes up about almost 200 gigabytes of that RAM. So yeah, so that's how it works. I feed the contact libraries to this insane project right here. And as you can see, so let me pull this up real quick. So I have my rack right here. So basically I have 4 instances of Vienna Ensemble, right? And each instance holds about, I think 30 contact instances with 16 MIDI instruments each. So that adds up to be, let's see, let's go to the bottom here. I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, so it's about, yes, here we go. So 1,714 MIDI channels. Well, probably about, yeah, like 1,700, because I'm not really counting the first couple tracks, right? Yeah. All right, so let me go a little in detail here. So on top, I have my live instruments recording. So I have my tracks, you know, like the track templates for my guitars. I have the distortion left. Nothing much. I mean, I usually try to work as clean as I can. I try to get the cleanest signal going in as much as I can. So I'm just cutting some low end and adding a little more compression in the mids. That's it, you know, there's nothing else. And then I have the filter that I basically use to filtering, you know, like right here, I'm filtering the guitars. Let me play this right real quick, like this. It's like nothing. It's just like a little cool effect to it. All right. Now, all these guitars, they pretty much have the same thing. Yeah, just a little fab filter, EQ. Let's see. So I got my clean guitars, and on some of them I have the Valhalla Room Reverb. I believe on some of them I have the Shimmer. Yeah, like Room and Shimmer are one of my two of my favorite reverbs of all time, and it's just they're just super easy to use and sound great right outside the box. All right, so I have my voice effects. Sometimes what I do is I'll do a little weird noise myself and just mess with it, you know, add a bunch of filters and stuff like that to make it interesting. Have my ADR, so that's when I record some voiceovers. Not necessarily for trailer music, but I do some voiceover work for films and stuff like that, just like extra additional voiceover. All right, so that's my other voiceover for the 50s effect. Then I have my bass guitar, which is, there's a lot of stuff here. So let's play something real quick. Yeah, see, nothing really fancy, just a typical kind of like rock bass sound. And all of my guitar sounds are coming from Kemper Profiler, which is great because I don't really need to, you know, set up any mics in my home studio. I can just plug it into the Kemper and then choose my profile that I like and mess with it after that. There's a lot of stuff going on here, I know, but it took me a while to build, you know, these little channel strips. And yes, actually one tip for the young composers. save your channel strips. Don't save the presets on the actual plugins, save the channel strips. All right, so then I have my two Superior Drummer 3 instruments. So I got the grungy sound. Yeah, so I'm getting some latency because I'm doing a screen capture, so it's gonna be a little late. Yeah, and then I have my metal sound, which I think I'm using here. Yeah, so I'm using the metal sound here, which is more snappy and kind of like right in your face sound here. I know, it sounds weird. It sounds weird by itself, but in a mix it sounds alright. Yeah. Alright, so, and I have my synths here. I'm actually, yes, I don't have any in this exact project. Yeah, synths, this is the only folder that I usually add stuff depending on the projects, because, you know, Massive or Serum, they take a lot of CPU usage, and I'm already kind of running about 30% here. And this is more like dependent on a project. Usually what I do is I would put a synth in and I will render it in place and just forget about it, you know. All right, so now after this we have the string section, which I have a bunch of libraries, and I chose about, let's see, about 10 of them probably for the string section. So I have the Berlin strings. These are great for that washed out kind of like a stage sound, and then LA's Corin strings are more dry in your face. So let me, for example, I have something going here. So it's spiccatos, violin 2, so. And I'm adding my own reverb to it, but it's still really, you know, in your face sound. Yeah. So then I have the Spitfire symphonic strings, kind of similar to the Berling, but a little drier sound. Chamber, smaller orchestral strings, you know. Let's see, so we got the solo strings with my favorite violin performance patch. Let me see. Here. It's kind of hard to play with latency going in like this, but yeah. And then I have the first stack legato, so that's kind of cool too. Yeah, if it's gonna play, let's see. Yeah, so all of these libraries are pretty natural and good sounding. So we have the London strings. These are more contemporary, kind of like strings that I would mix with other libraries. Then I have the Sonoscore. That's more of that generic library sound that it doesn't sound as good on itself, but then when you mix with other libraries, it's alright. Then I have Quartet, Albion strings from all the Albion 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Metropolis Arc strings, 2. And I believe I have, these are the, I have the Metropolis Arc 3. Oh yeah, that doesn't come with strings. And then I have the Soaring strings. Then a bunch of different solo strings with some weird things right here. These are not really solo, but I don't know. I have them in this folder, and I'm kind of lazy to organize, you know, this section right here. Then I have the Cinematic Studio strings, which is kind of like my favorite for scoring, because they just sound great on their own. And then I have the Trailer strings. Not really using this much. I mean, I got this library a couple of years ago, and I only think used it on 1 or 2 tracks, because it's a little too in your face sounding. Like, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, if it's. Yeah, well, guess with my latency, it's gonna be a problem. All right, so I have the Novo strings. These are more hybrid type of strings, and I have some of their presets that came with Novo for like rhythms and stuff like that. Then I have the Jaeger. I don't know how you pronounce that. Jaeger. Yeah, so these are also kind of like that hybrid sound. A Flautus. So these are these have a really cool colored sound, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. All right, so now after strings, so these were the strings. So we have the woodwinds. I have Berlin woodwinds, which is great for kind of like that smaller sound, but also it's a little quiet library, but it works well for doubling like string sections. Then I have Cinewinks. They are really in your face, and I would like them to be more relaxed, but like every time I try to play with these, they're too in your face, you know. But they're great to like cut through the mix. Then symphonic woods right here. Same thing, how the Berlin woods, you know, just nice for kind of like doubling the string elements. Then the Albion woodwinds, the Sonos Core woodwinds, the Metropolis Arc. That's great sounding woods. I know some of my fellow composers disagree with this, but this is great for like tense moments, you know, just to build some tension, because they have this really cool sound. Let's see, and then I have the other winds, just like solo libraries and stuff like that, just kind of like odd whistles and stuff. All right, so we got the brass here. So Berlin brass. And also I kind of want to mention, I like to have separate MIDI tracks for each articulation. You know how sometimes you can use the, what do you call it, the articulation maps or something like that. But for me, it's usually better to use separate MIDI channels for each articulation. Just easier for me to compose, and I don't need to switch. I don't need to remember all the key switches for the articulations. All right, so that's the Berlin brass. We have the Cinematic Studio brass here. Let's see, Sonos Core brass, Cine brass. That's like that in-your-face library. Project Sam. This is a good effects library, like crescendos and stuff like that. Let's see. You know, the cool stuff. All right, so Albion brass. Let's see. So it's from all the 5 Albions. Metropolis Arc brass from, I think, the first 2. And then Majestica. This is kind of like, this library is great for when you're writing something like an orchestral metal or something like this, where you already have really messy mid-range with guitars and drums and stuff like that. So this library kind of fits really well with metal for some reason. And then Jaeger brass, this is pretty cool too. Let's see, so that's the Heaviosity 4, so that's the that hybrid sound. So let me play some. Yeah, I think I have it all to set up as crescendos, because I use my main library for brass is the Berlin brass, and the rest of it is mostly for crescendos or some additional articulations. All right, so, and we have the Spitfire Symphonic brass, which is a smaller ensemble, I guess, and it sounds a little bit smaller. It's not as big sounding as Cine brass or Berlin brass. Okay, so after brass we have percussion here, and I have the Berlin percussion, all of it. I have the Hans Zimmer percussion, you know, which is great for the hits and stuff like that. Let me see. Yeah, like thunderous drums. Let's see, I have the Action Strikes. So this is basically your typical trailer. Here, let me see. Yeah, these are like the accent drums. And then I have the Symphony percussion. It's pretty cool too. Cineperc, got the 808 drums, the drums of war. I create the cymbals from, I think that's the Cineperc, either Core or Pro. And these cymbals sound really natural, and they cut through the mix really well. Now I have the drums from the Impacts. Got a bunch of stuff here. Heaviosity percussion, different drum, Metropolis Arc, then ADO hybrid drums, Instant Sonics. Let me see, Apocalypse Ensemble, that's great drums too. Then Audio Imperia. So these are basically the drums that you hear in, I don't know, like most of the trailer tracks these days. It's the decimated drums and Cerberus. Like these two are just dominating the, let's see. Here, let me play some. It's the, you know, that's the generic trailer sound drums. Let's see. So usually when I do drums for trailers, you know, usually you have that, the accent drums, like dun dun dun, you know, those drums, you have them in a center. But what I do is I'll pan them left and right, and then it creates like a different, slightly different stereo image. And it just, I think it just works a little better. You have more control over other instruments, so it's not really bashing that center, you know. Okay, so let's see, we got the Albion drums. I like using the sub hits from this one. Easter Island is great for this boom sound. Here, let me play one. You know, stuff like that. It's great. Then I have the tuned percussion, so that's for all of my Celestis, marimbas, xylophones, and stuff like that. Nothing really exciting, just Berlin percussion, cine samples, and yeah, I think that's it, right? And let's see, then I have my harp collection. Different libraries, they all have different sound, different colors, and they all work differently for different projects. Then I have my pianos. My go-to trailer piano is Gravitas, because it has this, you know, that sound. And also Death Piano. Yeah. Then I'll have my choir. So the choir from Metropolis Arc. I love their staccatos from the Metropolis Arc 2. Because they actually say words, you know. Let's see. So something like, yeah. All right, then I have the ADO, really great library as well. Like Hermosa, the Requiem Light. I believe that's Sound Iron. Yeah. Then other stuff like little tiny libraries, and then Liberius, Mercury Boys, the Olympus Men Orchestra Choir. I think that's from the Orchestra album, library. I love this Elven choir here, it's great. Great for fantasy scoring. Okay, and then Voxas and Jaeger. So this is, of course, you know that sound. That's a famous singer, Meredith. Kind of forgot the last name, but yeah, this is great. And then the hybrid part. So this is all of my hybrid things. You see, it's like pretty much half of the template is hybrid stuff. And the reason for this is I need variety, because every track is going to be different, and I don't want to use the same risers and the same hits and the same effects in every single track. It's just, you know, it gets boring after this. But also it's a little painful to choose from, you know, these many tracks. But anyway, so let's get into it. So we have risers. They're coming from a vast variety of libraries. As right now, these days, there's like about 20 or 25 libraries for like trailer music production. And, you know, I think I own most of them right now, yeah. If there's something new, I usually just Google like new trailer music libraries and just buy them, snatch them up, because they're always going to be great. And these libraries are just kind of like, you just press a button and it works. That's, you know. Yeah, just risers. Okay, then I have my whooshes and whoosh hits. So let's see. special effects and stuff like that. Then I have my hits, impacts, and some weird percussion. So there's a bunch of stuff here, different, heaviosity like gravity and damage, percussion. Let's see, so we have like dark impacts and exploding cars. Just random stuff. It works with trailers and cinematic music when you just want to build something up. And then next I have the synths and plucks. So as you can see, we have some synth guitars, some synth basses. So these are all Kontakt libraries. These are not the massive or serum synths. And these take less CPU usage on this computer. Let's see. So we got the sub drops and sub bass. So that's basically your, these things. I mean, I kind of like to do my own bass drops on every single track. But if there's not much time and, I have a pretty limited time to finish the project, I usually just use one of these and kind of like mess around with them. I would render them in place and either time warp them or put some phaser or flanger or something like that, So now we have the rhythmic section. There's a lot of stuff here. It's all the pulses, the little, things like that. Let's see. Yeah, like hybrid synthy stuff. Then I have my pads, same thing, coming from a bunch of different libraries. Let's see, so I got my special effects and I think I have, so the special effects, so these are all either stutters or glitches or some weird vocal effects, noises and stuff like that. And then I have drones and textures. It's really important these days to have a nice collection of drones for cinematic music. And I also use Omnisphere a lot for drone creation, so I'll put some of my own wave file and then just create some drone out of it. And then I have the Bram collection. So the Brams are basically that brown sound. Yeah, that. Like when you see like a monster movie or something, it's just that. Yeah. All right, and that's it with my MIDI channels. And as you can see, so these are my VST inputs from my slave computer. And the way I have it is I basically have, all the violins go into the violin output, and that violin output is coming into the input here, and so on and so forth, for every different kind of like variety of instruments. And here I have my stems, group tracks. So lots of the time when your publisher or your client will ask you for stems, you will need to send them stems of various instrument groups that you wrote your composition with. I mean, it could be 10 stems, it could be 30 stems sometimes. It all depends on your client and what they ask for. So here I have a pretty simple setup. So usually what I do, I would send in like my strings bus channel and then these channels. And then, well, basically I just send every channel that has anything going on. So like, if I don't have any trumpets, I'm not going to send them trumpets. I'll send them the brass bus if it's only like horns and tubas, for example, But if it has horns, trumpets, trombones, tubas, and other brass, I'll send them these 5, not the brass bus group. And pretty simple. I'm not really doing much here. Oops. Here, let's go back here. So yeah, I'm just cutting some low end on the instruments that they don't need low end. And like on a string bus, for example, I only have like a Studer, with the film preset. Just makes it a little fatter, more, how can I say, like the warmer sound for strings. And let's see. So we got the Woodwinds. Yeah. Oh yeah, and something I want to mention is I'm using the MIR Pro for my orchestral placement. So what I have is I have these like group sections are going into the Vienna MIR Pro, and I have them all here on a stage. So that's your typical orchestral placement. So I have like the microphone here and strings, then, you know, yeah. I mean, I think I've moved something around just for better placement for like trailer music, but yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it. So having this helps with achieving realism in your orchestral sound. I mean, you don't need to buy like the MIR Pro. You can probably pan it all yourself and use reverb and adjust the distance. But I mean, for me, it's just easier to just, you know, drag and drop them one by one, and then so they work in conjunction. So for example, when something is playing, you can see that hold on. Oops. That's pretty much it. And let's see. Oh yeah, so and I have the 2 reverb channels on send effects. So I have one with the Altiverb 7, and I'm using the mechanics room here. These are the parameters that I have here. Nothing fancy, just a kind of like your typical room. Well, I guess it's not typical, but yeah, the mechanics hall. And then I'm cutting some. Oh yeah. On the Altiverb in general, I usually cut about 6 decibels around 250. That kind of helps with the low boomy sound on the reverb, because I don't know what it is with Altiverb. It always adds that boominess to the mix, and this helps get rid of it. Then let's see what else I have here. Oh yeah, so I'm cutting some low end as well, and then I have my capital chambers. So I use this mostly on guitars and vocals, and sometimes like solo strings. And I would probably, most of the time, I'll render the solo string section in place, and I'll send this to capital chambers. This is great for making that, for getting that warm, kind of like vintage reverb sound that just sounds beautiful on pretty much anything. And yeah, these are my, here, move this right here. And then, let's see, and then my stereo out channel. So I basically do mastering in the same project. And this kind of helps with time, and just to speed up the workflow. I usually just master in place here. If I have some weird noises or tails that I don't want in the master, I will render the track without this thing, and I'll master it again in the separate project. But yeah, once again, I have this channel strip saved up, so I can just pull it up whenever I want. So what I have here is the Ampex by Universal Audio. You know, nothing really fancy. Got the Imager, got the Ozone 8, Fab Filter, cutting some stuff that Ozone did, then mastering AR. So that's the TG mastering chain from Waves. You know, just to get more brightness into the mix with this thing. Okay, and then I have my favorite thing called a Galfos. This is a smart EQ, and let me show you what it does. So it's basically, it takes all the unpleasant sounds and EQs them in place. That's wonderful. Yeah. So like, as you can see, I don't really need much, but it's a great dynamic EQ. It just softens things and glues things together more. Yeah, so when it's quiet, it just does this. Okay, now let's see. And yeah, so I have my stereo out. I also have the surround 5.1 mix and I have a reference mix. So usually when I'll work on a trailer track, I'll put the reference track here and just compare the mixes together between my mix and the reference mix. And I have my video channel, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's how I roll, man. And it's kind of funny, but look at the size of this project. So I think this is about a 3-hour long project or something like that. Yes, I have so much stuff in here. Yeah. And reason for this is that I like to go back sometimes. Like if I'm working on an idea and it's not really working out, I like to go back to my older tracks and just see what worked for that track. And just kind of try to, not exactly copy, but imitate my workflow from the older track that worked. And that usually helps a lot with brainstorming and trying to figure out, especially like percussive elements, you know, like all the drums and stuff like that, you know. And alright, so that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you want me to go more in detail on every single section, or if you want me to do like a comparison between the libraries that I have, like, you know, like comparing the string libraries, for example. You know, I might make a video like that. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how I did. Alright, cool. Blast out.